The brand new drought monitor is in. I'll have a town-by-town look at which communities are seeing improvements and where the drought is getting worse.
Dry conditions worsening. Despite recent rain, most of the area is still dealing with an extreme drought. Just how much more rain we need to get back to normal? SpaceX rocket launch. The North Carolina skies lit up this morning, and not just from the sun. WRAL is giving you a closer look at the images you sent us as the rocket flew across the sky.
Drought remains across our area despite recent rain. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Renee Chu.
And I'm Chris Levigan. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We have meteorologist Kat Campbell here right now to show us where we saw some minor improvement and where our next weather maker is going to bring along some dangerous heat and storms.
That'll come this weekend. In the meantime, we get a little bit of a lull in our storm chances. We saw some improvements, and some things get a little worse with the drought monitor. The severe drought grew this week, but part of the reason why is because the exceptional drought actually went down a little bit. Here's the latest update. The drought status shows our exceptional drought, that's the worst possible category, level 5 out of 5 there, was actually trimmed back. Barely any of Wake County is left in this. Durham was taken out of the exceptional drought. North Raleigh, Morrisville, Wake Forest, Chapel Hill are all some of the spots that were removed from the worst drought category and moved down to extreme drought instead. When you do look at how much of our area is covered in drought in red, extreme drought, it's not looking very good though. Renee? All right, Kat, thank you. The recent rainfalls have helped, but they have not solved our drought.
The newest drought report shows modest increases in lake levels, but we are a long way from normal. WRAL Sean Gallagher is at the Jordan Lake Dam. Sean, how are things looking there?
Renee, it's an improvement, but still a long ways to go, as we just heard Kat talking about. But here at Jordan Lake, you can see obviously great for fishing with the water level being down as low as it is. But when you pan over, this is actually an improvement. Jordan Lake has seen about 3 inches of improvement since its lowest point on July 5th. All of the recent rains are helping, but it's really a drop in the bucket for how severe this drought has been. Other areas have seen improvements too. You're looking at Falls Lake right now, which is actually up 6 inches because of the recent rains. That's helped with the level of exceptional drought like Kat was talking about, being the worst level, dropping from 7 to 6%, but extreme drought up from 42% to 50%. Now, that's why the Raleigh City Council approved changes that would allow them to move into stage 2 drought restrictions much sooner. That could include more restrictions on how often you could water your lawn or other irrigation methods. And for those who break those rules, they could see higher penalties as well. At this point, Raleigh Water has not instituted those rules, but they could be on the way. In Wake County, Sean Gallagher, WRAL News.
Sean, thank you. We have extensive drought coverage on YouTube, from water use limits to environmental impacts, from business costs to the day-to-day forecast. The WRAL News and severe weather teams have daily updates on the drought and deep dives into the science. Track all of our coverage on the WRAL YouTube channel.
The Wake County Sheriff's Office wants you to help them solve crimes. There's a new program launching that will allow you to register your homes, your security cameras with the agency. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey explains how this whole thing works.
Tonight, you can learn more about the new Connect Wake program. Now, you can opt into giving the Wake County Sheriff's Office access to your home security camera if a crime happens in your neighborhood. The agency says this could help them track down suspects faster. You can sign up to add your address to a database that tells deputies you have a security camera at your home. That means if a crime happens in your area, deputies can contact you and request the footage. Raleigh and Fayetteville Police already have similar programs. Sasha Godwin with the Wake County Sheriff's Office says the program will be audited regularly to make sure your privacy is protected and your footage will only be used with your permission.
You're not providing us with your camera footage in live action or any of those things. It's just telling us where your camera is, and then we'll reach out and ask you if you want to share it. You go into your camera program, you download the footage, and then you share that back with us. At no point do we access your information.
You can learn more about Connect Wake tonight at 6 o'clock at the Wake County Northern Regional Center. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News in Raleigh.
The driver of a car that overturned this morning on Glenwood Avenue in Raleigh is suspected of driving while intoxicated. The WRAL breaking news tracker was at that scene near Blue Ridge Road after 1:30 this morning. You can see right here that teams were able to quickly turn the car right side up and put it on a tow truck. Raleigh police say the driver has minor injuries.
Former Olympic canoeist David Hearn pleaded not guilty today to allegedly causing damage to the reflecting pool. Hearn was all smiles as he left the courthouse in the nation's capital. If convicted, he could get up to 10 years in prison. Meanwhile, 3 other people pleaded not guilty to misdemeanor charges of destruction of property. The Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool will be drained again in order to complete repairs. The move comes after President Trump and his administration claimed, without proof, that vandals damaged the new lining. The Secretary of Interior says the same company used for the initial work will perform these latest repairs. A federal appeals court will not reverse a judge's order to remove the president's name from the Kennedy Center. Trump argued that taking his name off the building would dampen fundraising efforts for the performing arts institution. He also claimed the Kennedy Center's bylaws requires it to return contributions brought in unless his name was put back on the building. The appeals court noted that claim was not made when the case was before the district court.
Well, this morning, SpaceX launched its 36th Starlink mission. A Falcon 9 rocket lifted off from Cape Canaveral Space Force Base, and its path could be seen in parts of North Carolina just before sunrise, including here in the Triangle. We have Ken Smith here to talk us a little bit more about this because, Ken, you saw some amazing photos that came in through our WRAL.com/reported portal.
Hey, Chris, this was a record-setting launch that led to some really eye-catching pictures and videos. So we asked, and our viewers responded in a major way with some amazing pictures. One picture came out of Curie Beach this morning along the North Carolina coast. The launch could be seen over Fayetteville as well, especially visible just before sunrise. This launch deployed 29 Starlink satellites. The rocket launch also visible over downtown Raleigh as well. WRAL photojournalist Michael Joyner got this video over Dix Park, the downtown Raleigh skyline, as a backdrop. Even our tower cam got in on the action. You got to look closely just below the banner in the upper left-hand corner. This was quite a treat for early risers this morning right here in the Triangle. So we so appreciate your pictures and videos coming through WRAL.com/reported. Keep those pictures coming. We'd love to add them to our photo gallery now on the homepage at WRAL.com.
New video showing heavy strikes on Iran. In response, Iran is attacking U.S. bases in Kuwait and Bahrain. U.S. military leaders say they targeted 90 Iranian military sites. Those targets include air defense systems, missile and drone facilities, and coastal surveillance assets. Iranian leadership says 2 days of U.S. strikes killed at least 14 people and wounded 78 others. The strikes happened just hours after President Trump said the ceasefire was over.
Well, one of the greatest perks of winning the Stanley Cup is you get your name engraved on the trophy. The Carolina Hurricanes now have their names etched onto the cup. 53 members of the organization, including 24 players, made the cut and have been memorialized on it. That list includes owner Tom Dundon, his wife, and their 5 children. Canes captain Jordan Stahl is the first player listed on the trophy, with the other 23 players appearing in alphabetical order. You can see all the names on the cup at WRAL.com.
Next at noon, teens, taxi, toy guns. We'll talk to a city in California. We'll take you to a city in California where a driverless taxi ride led to a heavy police response.
Plus, hotel roof collapse. What we know about what led to this building's damage and the emergency team response to it.
Freedom Fuel, the deal a gas station company is offering at its locations with support from the president.
Coming up next, sea storms moving in with WRAL's exclusive Dual Doppler 5000, sponsored by the WRAL Weather app. Download now for live radar.
The singer of the 80s power ballad Total Eclipse of the Heart has died. Bonnie Tyler died in a hospital in Portugal, according to her family. The Welsh singer was hospitalized in May for emergency intestinal surgery and was later placed in an induced coma. She came out of that coma last month, but had stayed in intensive care. Tyler earned 3 Grammy nods throughout her career. She was awarded a Medal of Honor by Queen Elizabeth in 2023. Total Eclipse of the Heart has more than 1 billion streams, boosted by real eclipses in 2017 and 2024. Tyler was 75.
A police department in California says they received an unusual call from a Waymo operator. The worker was monitoring video of 2 passengers who appear to be firing a gun from the car's window. Jana Katsuyama tells us what the officers uncovered.
The Waymo taxi traffic stop came after San Mateo police received a disturbing call around 2:10 Monday afternoon.
They reported that the passengers were raising and lowering the suspected firearm, and they could see what they called a recoil.
A Waymo operator had been watching cameras inside the driverless taxi and reported that 2 passengers appeared to be firing a gun out of the windows of the vehicle.
They described it as a black firearm. They saw it going up and down. They saw it kind of being passed back and forth, being hid from passerbys, and then they did say the recoil.
Police say the Waymo support operator then directed the vehicle to pull over along El Camino Real.
What they were able to do for us was basically pull over into a parking lot and tell the subjects that the vehicle had become disabled.
Within minutes, about a half dozen San Mateo police were there and surrounded the vehicle. What they found were 2 15-year-old boys inside who appeared to have been drinking alcohol and had a toy gun.
They did start searching property, and we found what we're calling an Orbeez water gun and backpacks, their personal property, as well as an open container of alcohol.
Police say the gel-like Orbeez pellets can be dangerous, and the gun was painted to look like a real firearm.
We've seen lots of youngsters using BB guns, water guns, toy guns, and then painting them black so that they look like real firearms, and that causes real danger to untrained eyes.
A Waymo spokesperson sent their policy statements, which say interior cameras are used by support teams to assist with customer service and, quote, occasionally in more urgent circumstances, support may access live video during a trip.
The Waymo policy also states that, quote, we may share certain data with law enforcement as needed to comply with legal requirements, enforcement agreements, and protect the safety of you and others.
Happening now here in the WRAL Live Center, we now have an update on a World Cup U.S. star and his injury. We're talking about Christian Pulisic here. We're now learning today that his right leg, and he fractured his right leg during the Americans World Cup loss to Belgium. He will be sidelined for several weeks, a person familiar with the injury said today. Now, Pulisic has a bone bruise and a microfracture of his tibia and fibula, according to the source. He is expected to be able to resume training before AC Milan's Serie A opener at Torino on August 23rd. So, of course, something that we're following closely, and his run through the World Cup as well.
The list of possible replacements in the race to become the Democratic Senate candidate in the state of Maine is growing. This morning, the state's former director of the CDC announced plans to seek the nomination, bringing the number to 3. This comes after Senate candidate Graham Plattner officially dropped out following rape accusations. Democrats in Maine now have less than 3 weeks to find a new candidate to face 5-term GOP Senator Susan Collins. In New Jersey, the roof of a vacant hotel collapsed in the wake of severe weather earlier this week. Emergency crews responded to the Economy Inn after the roof collapsed. While they were there evaluating the damage, a second part of the roof collapsed on camera. There are no reports of injuries. Barricades have now been put up around the building and surrounding parking lot.
Kat, I feel like this graphic right here is like the embodiment of when someone goes, I have some good news and some bad news. Good news, slightly better in some places after the rain last night. Bad news, slightly worse than others.
You know, with the new drought monitor, we saw changes, I would say, because some places got better, some places got worse. We ended up about even. We haven't seen any huge shifts, but I do want to let you know some of the places that are doing a little bit better on the new drought monitor. That includes a lot of areas around the Triangle: Durham, Morrisville, Chapel Hill, Wake Forest, North Raleigh, Franklinton, and slightly worse, unfortunately, Rocky Mount, Wilson, Elm City, Halifax, and Newton Grove all saw a decline in the drought status. The exceptional drought was trimmed back, so even though we did see improvements for parts of the Triangle, we went from exceptional, which is the worst, to extreme, which is the second worst drought category. That's why it's not a huge leap. But so far this July, we've seen over 4 inches of rain at RDU. Tuesday was actually the wettest day of the year so far. thing is that rainfall from Tuesday didn't go in to this week's drought monitor. So the cutoff is Tuesday morning for when they put in all that data. They analyze it Wednesday and then release the new drought monitor on Thursdays. So we have a lot of rain that didn't go into this drought update, about 2 to 2.5 inches for some of the areas that you see here in purple, and in the southern part of our viewing area where things got a little worse between Cumberland and Sampson counties. That's one of the areas that actually saw flash flooding. A live look over Garner from the WRAL Garner Tower camera. A beautiful day at the moment. Yesterday we were seeing storms and then a beautiful rainbow on the camera. If you're headed out to lunch, we should be dry for the lunch hour. Temperatures will be in the upper 80s to lower 90s, eventually warming up into the mid 90s later this afternoon. We're already there in Fayetteville, 94, the heat index 99. 104 is the heat index in Clinton, and 95 is the heat index here in the Triangle. Bottom line, it is hot, it is humid. The heat advisory today, though, only includes 2 counties, so it's a step in the right direction, a baby step. That includes Cumberland and Sampson counties until 8 p.m. It does not include the Triangle today. Storm chances a little bit lower, a 20% chance during the day, a 30% chance at night, and then Friday, storm chances will be a little bit higher tomorrow, 30% during the day, 40% at night, but not quite as active of a radar as what we've seen for the past several days. High temperatures tomorrow jump up into the upper 90s, possibly hitting 100 for Fayetteville and Wilmington. Even Boone is at 80 degrees, and they've been in the 70s much of this week. Our next weather maker is coming for the weekend. It's another front on the way. We'll see scattered storms ramping up, especially Saturday, and perhaps some severe weather as well that we'll need to look out for over the weekend. Sunday, the front still may be close enough by to trigger some additional storms, but look at our temperature trend over the course of the weekend. 98 tomorrow, 93 Saturday, and 87 on Sunday. Big improvement. Just know with storm chances over the weekend, you'll want to keep your WRAL weather app on hand. The dual Doppler 5000 radar is going to be your best tool if you're out and about. I think that's even better than hour-by-hour rain chances to look at to get a good feel for how your kids' sporting event's going to go, swim, meet, anything like that you've got going outside this weekend, going on outside. 96 today, 98 tomorrow, and then we've got 3 days in a row in the 80s to look forward to. The weather looks a little bit quieter early next week. Lows could even dip into the 60s. I am certainly looking forward to that. It's still going to feel like summer outside next week, so don't worry, summer lovers. However, it's just going to be a little bit more comfortable for those that want to get out, do some exercise outside, get some yard work done. Plan it for early next week.
Well, even the other day, Renee, we were looking at an older newscast and we saw the temperature for that day was 68, and we were like, oh.
In the mornings, yeah, we miss those days.
All right. Well, this afternoon we're talking about airline accountability. American Airlines answered our questions about passengers being stuck on the taxiway at RDU for a very long time. So, starting today on WRAL News at 4, how the airline says it's making sure this does not happen again.
Addressing unpaid bills. For the first time, we are hearing from Rocky Mount City Council members accused of not paying their utility bills. Tonight on WRAL News at 6, their response and how those are being received in the community. Later on this newscast, back to school spending. Year-round school is back in session, and those who still have another month of summer break, some are already thinking about school supplies. How businesses are helping parents prepare for school spending.
Plus, zip codes at risk. 5 on Your Side maps out the Triangle's biggest scam hotspots to see if your zip code made the list and shares how to avoid becoming the next victim. Just a reminder, if you ever see some breaking news, you have a story tip, or maybe you took some video and pictures of that SpaceX launch from earlier today. Well, whatever it is, including weather, if you have that too, send it to us at WRAL.com/reporting.
Happening now here in the WRAL Live Center, we have some news, especially if you rely on public transit in Cary. Go Cary's downtown loop service will now be suspended until further notice. We have this story posted on WRAL.com. Now, Cary and the town of Cary is citing the service change due to a result of an ongoing driver shortage, and they want to support Go Cary's efforts, of course, to maintain dependable service. They're saying right now they are recruiting bus operators and encouraging interested applicants to apply right now. But again, that downtown loop in Cary, that service will now be suspended until further notice. Other Go Cary fixed routes will continue to serve most of the downtown loop stops, providing riders with access to many of those same downtown locations.
In some parts of the country, kids are settling into summer break, but retailers are already stocked for back-to-school shopping. This is part of a new normal that reflects recent economic ups and downs. Karen Kafa explains what it means for your budget.
Summer is in full swing, but back-to-school buying is already underway.
We're finding even though families are feeling economic pressure, it's almost treated as a non-negotiable.
In recent years, back-to-school shoppers have been met with sticker shock for reasons ranging from post-pandemic supply chain problems to tariffs. This year, gas prices have fallen off Iran war-related peaks, but they're still higher than 1 year ago. And survey data released by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York Tuesday showed consumers expect more pressure from higher prices. That's why retailers are stretching the season and the sales for consumers to browse now.
As retailers, move their sales earlier, consumers are responding to that, and we know that the consumer is very price conscious right now. They want to stretch their dollar.
Kelly Peterson, global retail leader for PwC, says their research finds more families using AI tools, especially for deal hunting.
They're also actually finding it to understand and predict where the timing around promotions is going to be. So they're using AI as almost like a digital assistant to try to figure out when should they be buying.
And retailers will be watching to see how resilient consumers remain.
This is going to be a really important season, and it will give us a perspective on where the consumers is headed as we move on in the year.
Now, along that vein, a new report projects total spending for back-to-school spending to hit just over $30 billion, or about $560 per student. That's down roughly $10 from last year. Families are expected to prioritize necessities, and they are delaying shopping until closer to the start of the school year.
The IRS is simplifying penalty relief for millions of eligible taxpayers. Beginning this summer, the IRS will automatically waive certain penalties for taxpayers with a strong history of filing and paying on time. The new program replaces a long-standing process, and that typically required taxpayers to request the relief. Under the new automatic exemption from penalty program, eligible taxpayers will no longer need to take any action. Delta is expanding its no-frills basic fare concept beyond economy into its premium cabins. So the new options include Delta First Basic, Premium Select Basic, and Basic Business. The company says this will provide travelers with a lower-priced way to book premium seats in exchange for fewer perks. That includes flexibility, Sky Miles earnings, and baggage allowances. The fares are rolling out on select routes now, with broader availability in the coming weeks.
Remember when economy class was all one price? I miss those
Seems
days.
like forever ago.
Yeah, 12:25 now. Minimal change. Some areas saw scattered showers over the past few days, but it didn't put a dent in our drought. Kat Campbell returns with a look at the new numbers as you look live at the DBAP.
And reconsider a ruling. President Donald Trump wants the Supreme Court to revisit a decision he calls, quote, absolutely insane. Why birthright citizenship may not be a dead issue. And we do have a look at your winning NC Education lottery numbers right here on your screen.
Live from WRAL News headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
The new drought monitor shows the severe drought has worsened, but there's one important qualification. Meteorologist Kat Campbell is here to kind of walk us through what we need to know with this latest update, Kat.
Well, the cutoff for the rainfall data going into this update that we get each week on Thursdays is actually Tuesday at 8 a.m. Tuesday was the wettest day we have had all year long at RDU, so we are missing about 2 inches of rainfall data there. We saw the exceptional drought, which is the worst category, actually shrink a little bit from week to week. A lot of the triangle was removed. However, the red expanded eastward, and that is the extreme drought, so now Rocky Mount, Wilson, Halifax County, all included. Let's do a little rainfall math here. Stick with me. We still need 14 inches of rain to end the drought in 1 month in Wake County. So let's talk about that math. We would need 18.5 inches. That's what we started July needing to end the drought. We have seen 4.31 inches of rain this month. We have seen a lot of rain this month. That is a really good number. Even then, that's the severity of the drought here. We still would need another 14 inches to actually be in the clear by the end of this month. We do have rain chances growing over the weekend. I'll have a closer look at that coming up.
And for updated drought levels and ways that you can help conserve your water, make sure you download the WRAL weather app.
Happening now here in the WRAL Live Center, we are now learning more about the Wilson County fireworks mishap that happened and more on the person who was injured. We just received this statement from the pyrotechnics company that provided the fireworks, and it says at approximately 15 minutes into a 20-minute display, there were some low brakes and the show was immediately halted to preserve the safety of crew and spectators. It goes on to say a technician was injured and then transported to the hospital for evaluation. The technician was treated and released. So I want you to take a look at this video that we received from viewers, and it shows just how dangerously close the fireworks were to the ground there. They say that safety is their highest priority for pyro shows East Coast and that the incident is currently under internal review and investigation by their safety team, who are working to identify more details surrounding the malfunction. But again, it was only a technician that was hurt, and that person is expected to be okay. So good news with that.
Laura, thanks for that update. More than $1 million will be used to restore a Wake County creek. Congresswoman Deborah Ross presented Kerry with a check for that federal funding. It's for the Walnut Creek Stabilization and Restoration Project. The project is meant to improve water quality, critical infrastructure, and strengthen the watershed. The town of Morrisville is looking for local and regional artists for its next public art project. They are looking for designs for 4-foot fiberglass butterfly sculptures that will be installed throughout the town. The deadline to submit designs is Wednesday, July 15th at 5 p.m. The artists picked will get an award funded by the United Arts of Wake County.
A new report by the state auditor's office revealed Rocky Mount residents were not double billed for the utilities. And it also determined the billing system was broken and 2 elected officials did not pay their bills for months. The report had found bills were being printed, quote, sometimes up to 30 days after utility meter readings. When the issue was corrected, utility customers received back-to-back bills. WRAL spoke with council members TJ Walker and Charles Robertson about their unpaid bills. Both said they had similar concerns about being double billed. That's why they hadn't paid their own bills until this report came out.
President Donald Trump plans to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to rehear the birthright citizenship case. Last week, the High Court rejected the president's executive order, choosing to reaffirm birthright citizenship. That means if you are born on U.S. soil, you are automatically an American citizen. The Supreme Court can choose to rehear cases, but it's extraordinarily rare. Critics of the decision say it encourages what they call birth tourism. Paul Spey looks into that claim for PolitiFact.
How often do people travel to the U.S. just to give birth? Well, U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson says a recent Supreme Court decision could encourage the practice. The court said if you're born on U.S. soil, then you're automatically a citizen. Here's Johnson reacting to that.
It's become a tourism, birthing tourism, they call it, a trend where people would just come and you just come onto the soil and have your child, and then they're able to avail themselves of the welfare state and everything else.
How often does that actually happen? Well, there's no U.S. agency that tracks it, but some groups have pieced together some federal data to come up with estimates. Let's take a look. The highest number comes from a 2020 report by the Center for Immigration Studies. That's a think tank that advocates for lower immigration levels. The group estimated that tourists give birth to as many as 26,000 babies per year. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recently reported a lower number, though. The CDC reported that in 2024, there were about 9,500 births to parents who had listed their primary address outside of the U.S. That could be an undercount, however, because it was based on self-reporting from parents. Researchers at Penn State University looked at a longer period from 2014 to 2024. They reported that the number of births by tourists ranged from 5,000 to 10,000 births per year. So with all of those estimates considered, the number of birth tourism babies, if you will, is somewhere between 5,000 and 26,000 babies per year. That comes out to less than 1% of births in the U.S. last year, which reached 3.6 million. If you're not a citizen, giving birth in the U.S. is not a crime. However, the federal government has taken steps to try to prevent it from happening. Read about visa regulations imposed by Presidents Trump, Biden, and Obama. They're in our story at WRAL.com.
Paul, thank you. Our Political Fact team checks statements from people across the political spectrum. And if you see something you would like us to fact check, Reach out through our website or email us at reportit@WRAL.com.
Targeted towns. 5 on Your Side digs into data showing which zip codes in the triangle are most frequently reporting scams.
And live like you're in space. Would you spend a year in a habitat similar to what astronauts would experience? Why NASA is looking for volunteers.
Well, 5 on Your Side always brings you consumer stories, warnings, and alerts. And 5 on Your Side's Alex Littlehales dug in through the data to find out the triangle's most scammed zip code and where your neighborhood ranks.
You always hear us talking about people getting scammed, but have you ever thought, where does it actually come from? Where does it actually happen? Well, we had that question too.
With those sensors not working, the door won't shut.
Matt Clements lost over $1,000 last fall. He was told by contractors he got scammed by a garage door repairman upcharging for labor and parts on what should have been a simple fix. Matt reported his loss to the Better Business Bureau's scam tracker. We looked through that report data for the entire region. We found out residents in Matt's zip code 25787, covering Wake Forest from Falls Lake to Rollsville, was the zip code that most frequently reported scams to the BBB. 45 reports in 2025. So we wondered what other neighborhoods had a high number of these reports. Tonight at 6, WRAL shows you if your neighborhood made the list and whether we're on pace to break 2025's numbers. Alex Littlehales, 5 on Your Side.
The Federal Trade Commission and farm equipment manufacturer John Deere have reached a settlement in an antitrust lawsuit. The FTC and 5 states had accused the company of maintaining monopoly power for repair services for its equipment. Farmers were forced to have their Deere equipment repairs done only at authorized dealers. Now farmers will have more options to repair their own tractors and farm equipment. Under the agreement, John Deere must provide the resources, including software to read and reset codes to third-party repair shops for the next 10 years and be monitored by the FTC. Low-price gas stations. Some drivers welcome the break at the pump, but not everyone is on board. Why some are rejecting Freedom fuel stations.
And volunteers wanted. NASA is looking for a few good men and women for a year-long assignment. How the recruits will contribute to future Moon and Mars missions. Well, it looks like buying tickets to a big concert or even a Carolina Hurricanes game could soon become a lot more transparent. You see, there's a new law that was tucked into North Carolina's new state budget that cracks down on hidden fees, ticket bots, and deceptive resale practices. The change would require sellers to show the full ticket price up front and clearly identify resale tickets. It also bans speculative sales when tickets are listed before the seller actually has them. Restrictions on ticket buying bots was also placed into this law. And for families, lawmakers say the goal is to make sure fans have a real shot at getting affordable tickets.
Someone to, just kind of take that experience, away from them. Definitely highly, highly unfortunate. So I definitely think that should be regulated because it's just not right.
The law takes effect on October 1st.
A chain of discount gas stations promoted by President Donald Trump is selling gasoline below the national average at 25 locations across Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Now, despite the high-profile launch, little is known about the company behind the Freedom Fuel network. The new Freedom Fuel stations launched Friday with a price of $3.47 a gallon, a nod to President Trump serving as the nation's 47th president. Prices started to rise after the president announced strikes resumed on Iran. Although the low price of fuel was a draw for many, others had different reactions.
It really adds up to what we have to charge our customers because we can't really pass it on to anybody else. So $3.47 a gallon's a godsend.
It's very hard to feed your families these days because of inflation, but we also have morality, right?
The company says it is cutting its own profit margins in order to offer these lower prices.
Now, as crews continue the painstaking recovery effort following a pair of devastating earthquakes, the government is now discussing an earthquake-resistant rebuilding plan. Venezuela's acting president met with the UN relief chief, who is appealing for about $300 million to assist Venezuelans in urgent need of help.
You're dealing both with the immediate health repercussions, but also trying to make sure that there won't be a secondary health crisis. And then, of course, you then move through that phase into what I hope will then be the recovery and reconstruction phase.
Now, officials say more than 3,800 people are now confirmed dead, though experts believe that total is actually understated. About 18,000 people are displaced, with many of people who are now homeless are living in schools, parks, and other public spaces. Well, heavy rain triggered flash flooding across parts of southern Minnesota, and that forced officials to close a stretch of an interstate there, I-90 specifically. Officials estimate that some roadways there were covered by nearly a foot of water, and emergency crews coordinated at least one water rescue in that area. The flooded section reopened hours later, but authorities warned drivers to proceed with caution. You see stuff like that, Kat, and this is why it's such a reminder for people. Like, if you see floods, like, don't drive through it. Like, it can get really, really bad.
It can, and I mean, you can't see what's beneath the water. You don't know if a road's been washed out and severe flash flooding and things like that. So please be careful out there in any kind of bad weather. We had a lot of it yesterday. Today,
nice today, though, right?
Yeah, it shouldn't be quite so active on the radar today, but there will still probably be a couple of storms this afternoon. They're just going to be more sparse. A live look at Pinehurst. People out there enjoying the hot weather as they play a round of golf. It's not quite as humid as it was yesterday, but we're still at the top of the muggy meter, folks. Dew points are over 70 degrees, and that is when it starts to feel tropical. The higher the number, the more moisture there is in the air here. And Clinton yesterday had a dew point in the 80s at some times. It was really juicy air there in Clinton. So it's good not to see that on the map today. The dual Doppler 5000 radar is nice and quiet if you're headed out and about to lunch. Storm chances are only around 20% during the early evening hours. They ramp up to about 30% as we head into tonight, though. We do have some relief from the heat coming here pretty soon, and this is going to be our next weather maker. It's this front right here that drops in from the north over the weekend. Out ahead of it, we've got some scattered storms in the forecast Saturday and Sunday, but Monday we cool off a little. Here's the thing. Blue does not mean cool. It does not mean crisp or fall on this map. It means below normal, and that means our highs are going to drop from the low 90s into the upper 80s. And the normal high this time of year is in the low 90s. That's why it's technically considered below normal, even though it will still feel like summer out. High temperatures will be in the 80s 3 days in a row, pretty nice early in the week, and then temperatures ramp right back up. We'll be back in the 90s in no time. That will come with a small dip in humidity. We go from tropical with dew points in the 70s back to steamy with dew points in the 60s. Maybe tolerable, but it's a little bit of a downturn. We'll take any relief we can get from the heat and humidity, right? Carolina Beach looking beautiful today. A lot of people enjoying their time at the coast. If you're headed to the beaches tomorrow, it's going to be hot again. Wrightsville Beach, 97 degrees. Ocean Isle Beach, Myrtle Beach, 94. Nags Head, even 94. Topsail Beach, 93 degrees Saturday. Emerald Isle, 87. Wrightsville back up to 96, and that will come with scattered storm chances at the coast. I do want to stress the rip current risk, though. It is high today for pretty much all of the Outer Banks. As you get closer to Topsail Beach, that is when you go from the more moderate to high risk of rip currents. And tomorrow, there are many beaches, especially the ones, the south-facing beaches, that will be under a high risk for rip currents as well. So please use caution. The rip current forecast is a little bit concerning heading into a busy stretch at our area beaches. Your 7-day forecast, hot and humid for the next several days, but it backs off as we get into early next week. Storm chances peak Saturday, and in our southern counties, especially Sunday, with that front on the way.
Kat, thank you. Engineering a record. Students construct a colossal plane made entirely out of paper. But can it fly?
Let's see. And we have a look at your winning Powerball numbers from last night. 12, 29, 37, 43, and 55 with the Powerball at 18 and the multiplier 4. Well, as we wrap things up, here's a look at a few of the headlines that were falling today on WRAL News. So recent rain has helped, but not solved our drought. The newest drought report shows modest increases in lake levels, but we're a long way from normal. Jordan Lake, for example, the levels there have improved up to nearly 3 inches since its lowest point on July 5th. Falls Lake is up 6 inches, but our recent rain is really just a drop in the bucket for how severe this drought is. You can dive even deeper into the numbers behind it all and the conditions where you live on the WRAL YouTube channel.
The Wake County Sheriff's Office is launching a new program it says will help solve crimes and keep communities safer. Starting today, you can sign up to join a database that tells Wake County deputies you have a security camera at your home. Then, if a crime happens in your area, deputies can contact you to request the video. Learn more about the new program during a meeting tonight at Wake County Northern Regional Center in Wake Forest. It's from 6 to 7.
Rocky Mount Council members accused of not paying utility bills are expected to address these allegations with the WRAL today. This comes after a new report by the state auditor's office revealed Rocky Mount residents were not double billed for the utilities. It also determined 2 elected officials did not pay their bills for months. Council members TJ Walker and Charles Robertson told WRAL they had concerns about being double billed, and that's why they hadn't paid their own bills until this report came out. You can look for updates on that story starting at 4 o'clock.
Forget the paper airplanes you folded as a kid. Check this out. A team of engineering students in Italy has built the world's largest paper plane. And get this, they only use paper and glue. The plane stretches nearly 66 feet from across its wings and flew 193 feet inside a hangar. Impressive. The plane is now officially a Guinness World Record holder.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Love the engineering. I love the ingenuity.
Yes.
All right, so NASA is looking for 4 volunteers. I've been told that's the key word there, volunteers, willing to spend a year in a simulated space habitat. You got to pay me to do that. Well, the Moon and Mars exploration analog will happen next year at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. It'll mimic conditions astronauts are expected to experience. It will have 2 isolated habitats, a spacecraft and a base facility with a workspace, living area, and sleeping quarters. The data gathered will help NASA design safe human missions to the Moon and to Mars as well.
For a year, I would last 2 days.
Yes, that's a big ask. For no money, big ask.
Our pet of the day comes to us from the SPCA of Wake County. Badar, I'm guessing it's Badar.
Looks like Badar.
Okay, is a 5-year-old male cat, like radar with a B. He's very sweet, wants a home where he'll be given lots of snuggles. Adoption fees are 50% off now through Friday for all animals.
Or maybe he's bougie like Target and like Target and Badar.
Or Badar.
Well, hey, NBC News Daily is next on WRAL with your next news update in about 30 minutes.
Remember, you can get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL News app. We hope you have a great Thursday. You too.